بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. قال تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أفضل الجهاد من قال كلمة حق عند سلطان جائر، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. A few weeks ago, I asked my Maktab students here at IFN, what have you been learning in your social studies class? What have you been learning in your history class in this month of February? One student mentioned that he's learning about the Constitution. Another student mentioned that she's learning about different countries. Another student mentioned that he's learning about different presidents. Not one student mentioned that they are learning anything about African American History Month, considering February is Black History Month. But not one student mentioned that. Not one student. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of doctors in our community. And that's good. We need doctors. But we also need educators. We need educators in our community. So if there's something that's not being taught in the public school system, we can notify the principals and we can notify the board. A rabbi was telling me last week that in his congregation, there are many educators. He has many educators in his congregation. And if there are any anti-Semitic statements going around in the school board is notified immediately. The pertinent educators are notified immediately. The school board, the principal, immediately they are notified. Why? Because he has educators in his congregation. I can't say the same for our congregation. Not yet, inshallah. We need to encourage our children to become educators. And if that's their passion, we need to allow them to follow their passion. We need to support our children in their passion. February is Black History Month. It's important that we take a break from reading the news all the time and read a book. Have you ever heard anyone say, SubhanAllah, I receive such itmi'nan fil qalb. I receive such contentment in the heart from watching the news. I feel, my heart feels at peace from watching another one of those President Steve Bannon news conference. Does that ever happen? Why no one says that? Close the news and read a book. Recognize the central role of African Americans in U.S. history. Today I'd like to examine the life of Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabbaz. When I asked my students, who is Malcolm X? Not many of them, they said they never heard of him. They said they never heard of Malcolm X. The ones that did hear of Malcolm X, they said he's a radical. He's an extremist. He's a racist. That's all you know about him? Yes, that's all we've been taught in school. This is, once again, why we need educators in our congregation. To make Malcolm's life simple, to break it down simple, his life can be broken down into 4 stages. First stage, Malcolm Little. Second stage, Detroit Red. Third stage, Malcolm X. And fourth stage, Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabbaz. And there's a story behind each name. We'll try to go over each of these names, why Malcolm decided to go with each name. On May 19, 1925, Malcolm Little was born in Omaha, Nebraska. His mother, Louise Little, was a homemaker, occupied with 8 children. Louise was a light-skinned, fair-skinned, educated woman from Granada. She was light-skinned and she was fair-skinned because Malcolm's mother was conceived when her father, a white man whom she never knew, raped her mother. That's why Malcolm's mother was light-skinned. And Malcolm writes in his autobiography that he was the lightest skinned of all of the siblings. This was a reminder of the white man who had raped his mother's mother. He writes, I was among the millions of Negroes who were insane enough to feel that it was some kind of status symbol to be light complexioned, that I was actually fortunate to be born thus, but later I learned to hate every drop of that white rapist blood that is in me. Malcolm's father, Earl Little, was a Baptist minister, and he was an avid supporter of Marcus Garvey. When the father used to preach Christianity, the KKK left him alone. This guy is harmless. He's a poodle. Right? That's what they called him, a poodle. But as soon as the father started preaching civil rights, as soon as the father started preaching the teachings of Marcus Garvey, they started giving him problems. That's when they started giving him problems and death threats. When Malcolm's mother was pregnant with Malcolm, hooded Ku Klux Klan members broke every single window of his house. These white supremacists were targeting the father, Earl Little. These death threats forced Malcolm to relocate twice before his 4th birthday. When the family moves to Lansing, Michigan, in 1929, yet another white supremacist group gives them trouble. This time, they didn't just break down the windows of his house, they burnt down the entire house. This time, they burnt down the entire house. Malcolm writes, our home was burning down around us. We were lunging and bumping and tumbling all over each other, trying to escape. My mother, with the baby in her arms, just made it into the yard before the house crashed in, showering sparks. I remember we were outside in the night in our underwear, crying and yelling our heads off. The white police and firemen came and stood around watching as the house burned down to the ground. Think about that. Think about that. The police came, the firemen came, but they just watched. They let it burn to the ground. Not surprisingly, Malcolm and his family, they were not compensated for the loss of their house. Then 2 years later, in 1931, Malcolm becomes a yatim. He becomes an orphan. His father's body was found lying across the train tracks. The police ruled this incident as an accident, but Malcolm's family was certain that it was the white terrorist organization, the Black Legion, that they were responsible. Malcolm writes, my father's skull on one side was crushed in. He was attacked and then laid across some tracks for a streetcar to run over him. His body was cut almost in half. So there we were. My mother was 34 years old now, with no husband, no provider, no protector to take care of her 8 children. Malcolm's mother would find different jobs in housework or sewing for white people. They didn't realize she was black. Remember, she was light complexion. But as soon as they found out that she was black, they said, "You're fired. You're fired." Malcolm writes, "I remember how she used to come home crying, but trying to hide it because she had just lost a job that she needed so much." In 1938, 7 years after the murder of Malcolm's father, it became too much for the mother. It was too much. The state social agency kept coming to Malcolm's mother and saying, "You're crazy, you're insane, you can't take care of the kids. You're crazy, you're insane, you can't take care of the kids," repeatedly, until finally Malcolm's mother suffered an emotional, nervous breakdown, and she was sentenced to a mental institution for 26 years. Her children were split up amongst various foster homes and orphanages. Malcolm writes, "I truly believe that if ever a state social agency destroyed a family, it destroyed ours. It destroyed ours. We wanted and we tried to stay together, but our family was destroyed." All of these events occurred during Malcolm's childhood. During his childhood. The breaking of the house, of the windows of his house by white people. The burning of his house, his entire house, once again by white people. Having to relocate to a different state because of white people. The policemen and the firemen watching his house burned down to the ground. The murder of his father by white supremacists. The eventual mental breakdown of his mother, being separated from his own brothers and sisters. All of these events, once again, happened in his childhood. They will have an impact on someone's life. They will have an impact on one's personality. Despite all of these events, Malcolm excelled in school. He was the only black student in school. He was the class president. He was on the honor roll. Everything, alhamdulillah, he was able to, it looks like, overcome these challenges. And then this happens. One day, I happened to be alone in the classroom with Mr. Ostrowski, my English teacher. He asked me, "Malcolm, you ought to be thinking about a career. Have you been giving it any thought?" "Well, yes, sir. I've been thinking I'd like to be a lawyer." Mr. Ostrowski, my English teacher, looked surprised. He half smiled, and then he said, "Malcolm, one of life's first needs is for us to be realistic. Don't misunderstand me now. We all here like you, and you know that. But you've got to be realistic about being and I'm not going to use the N-word, but you've got to be realistic about being a Negro. A lawyer, that's no realistic goal for a Negro. You need to think about something that you can be. You're good with your hands. You're good with making things. Everybody admires your carpentry work. Why don't you plan on carpentry?" The more I thought about it afterwards, about what he said, the more uneasy it made me. What really disturbed me was Mr. Ostrowski's advice to the other kids in class. All of them were white. Some of them said they wanted to become farmers. Some of them said wanted to be teachers. Another boy said a county agent, a veterinarian. One girl wanted to be a nurse. They all reported that Mr. Ostrowski had encouraged what they had wanted, yet nearly none of them had marks equal to mine. I was smarter than nearly all of those white kids, but apparently I was still not intelligent enough in their eyes to become whatever I wanted to be. It was then that I began to change inside. It was then that I drew away from white people. So you see, even the teacher supports the professional aspirations of white students, but not Malcolm. That was the nail on the coffin. That's when he started to change. And as a result, he started to resent his white school. He started to hate his foster home. And he realized that even well-meaning white people will never see black people as their equals. That's when he changed. He drops out of school. He learns various hustling techniques. His friends start to call him Detroit Red. We're going into the second stage now of his life. Detroit Red, because his hair was bright red, he was trying to blend in with the white society. Back then, it was called the art of conking. He moves to a rooming house run by prostitutes. With no father figure in his life, he falls into the temptations of this life. He starts acting on every lust. He starts hustling. He becomes addicted to drugs. He starts using the drugs that he was supposed to be selling. He starts womanizing. He starts stealing. And then in 1946, it all caught up to him. It all caught up to him. He was arrested and convicted of burglary charges and sentenced to 10 years in prison. In prison, Malcolm suffered from drug withdrawal, and he had a fierce temper. When he used to speak with the chaplain or with the priest, he spoke very harshly. Remember, drugs, he said, was the center of his life, but he suffered from drug withdrawal, and this caused a fierce temper. He was placed in solitary confinement, and he was given the nickname Satan, Shaitan, because he hated God and he hated faith. If you saw Malcolm at that moment, you will see a black man with red hair, someone with a fierce temper, someone who's known for using drugs, someone who's known for using women, someone who hated God. That's what you would see on the outside, but you don't know what led to that result. Some of us know what led to that result, but we don't ask what led to that result. We constantly ask, was he a racist? Yes, Malcolm was a racist. But don't be so shallow in your thinking process, my respected listeners. Ask yourself, why was he a racist? What events motivated him to have this pervasive anti-white rhetoric? That's what you should be asking. Did you ever, and if you went through what Malcolm went through, you'd probably be a racist too. Did you ever have a teacher completely destroy your dreams of what you wanted to be in life while telling everyone else, follow your dreams? Did that ever happen to you? Or did you ever witness your house being burnt down to the ground while the policemen and the firemen came and just watched? Did that ever happen to you? Did you ever witness your father being decapitated? Did you ever witness your mother being told by the social state agency, you're insane, you're insane, you're insane, when she finally believes it, and then she's sent to the mental institute? Did that ever happen to you? Did you ever have to be separated by from your brothers and your sisters? Did you ever have your family destroyed in this manner? Ask yourself these questions. In prison, Malcolm was lost, Malcolm was confused, and Malcolm was angry. He meets a brother by the name of Bimby, Bimby demonstrates to Malcolm the power of independent thought and persuasive argument. Under Bimby's instruction, Malcolm begins to think outside the life of a hustler. Right? He makes use of the library. He refines his English, memorizes the entire dictionary, and he channels his rage into a reasoned argument. And you have to give credit where credit is due. The Nation of Islam did an excellent job in this regard. It was the Nation of Islam that dragged Malcolm out of this life of crime and racial victimhood and immorality. That was the Nation of Islam. And they helped many. There were thousands of Malcolms out there. It was the Nation of Islam that helped these individuals transform their life. It was the Nation of Islam that cleaned them up. It was the Nation of Islam that gave them jobs, right? Gave them an identity. But their aqeedah was not correct. The aqeedah, the theology of Nation of Islam was not correct. I'll go over a few of their aqeedah, but when you get a chance, read the book On the Side of My People, specifically chapter 2, to learn more about the theology of the Nation of Islam. Number one, the Nation of Islam was founded in 1930 by Wallace Farad Muhammad, and he taught his followers that God was a black divinity. Number two, Elijah Poole, or Elijah Muhammad, claimed that he was Rasulullah, a messenger of God. That is kufr, and that is shirk. Elijah would pray to the founder of the Nation of Islam. That is kufr, that is shirk. The Nation of Islam advocated an anti-white theology. All white people are devils. And Malcolm would regurgitate this information because remember, it was the Nation of Islam that dragged him out of this life of immorality. So he used to say, okay, let's teach this as well, because he wanted the world to be black and white. It made sense. And number five, Elijah claimed to be a prophet. All prophets are ma'soom, sinless, innocent. But Elijah had committed zina, and he had several children out of wedlock. To cut a long story short, in 1963, Malcolm separates himself from the Nation of Islam. One of the reasons was his faith was shattered when he learned that Elijah, who he worshipped, had children out of wedlock. So he decides to take a break from society and he decides to go for Hajj. When he went for Hajj, this happened. Never have I witnessed such sincere hospitality and the overwhelming spirit of true brotherhood as is practiced by people of all colors and races here in the ancient Holy Land, the home of Ibrahim, the home of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all the other prophets of the Holy Scriptures. For the past week, I have been utterly speechless and spellbound by the graciousness I seen displayed all around me by people of all colors. There were tens and thousands of pilgrims from all over the world. They were of all colors, from blue-eyed blondes to black-skinned Africans. But we were all participating in the same ritual, displaying a spirit of unity and brotherhood that my experiences in America had led me to believe never could exist between the white and the non-white. America needs to understand Islam. Muslims do too. America needs to understand Islam because this is the one religion that erases from its society the race problem. Throughout my travels in the Muslim world, I have met, talked to, and even eaten with people who in America would have been considered white, but the white attitude was removed from their minds by the religion of Islam. I have never seen sincere and true brotherhood practiced by all colors together, irrespective of their color. So was Malcolm a racist? Yes, he was a racist. But then, don't forget, he also writes, on this pilgrimage, what I have seen and what I have experienced has forced me to rearrange much of my thought patterns previously held and to toss aside some of my previous conclusions. In the past, yes, I have made sweeping indictments of all white people. I will never be guilty of that again. He went to Hajj as the racist Malcolm X, as the uneducated, as the ignorant Malcolm X. And he returned from Hajj as the pure, as the sinless Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabbaz. May Allah Ta'ala have mercy on Malcolm X. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. My go-home message today is read the book. Read the autobiography of Malcolm X. Don't say you don't have time. Don't say that. If you have time to watch the news, you have time to read the autobiography of Malcolm X. At the very least, read chapter 17. See how he overcame all of these obstacles and battles. 3 months. Look at what he accomplished. He was a Sunni Muslim for just 3 months. And look what he was able to accomplish. He didn't have a great beginning. He had a terrible beginning. Heck, he didn't even have a great middle. But he had the power. He realized he had the power to change his ending. And he built a legacy. What's going to be your legacy? الحمد لله الأكرم الذي خلق الإنسان وكرم وعلمه من البيان ما لم يعلم فسبحان الذي لا يحصى امتناه باللسان ولا بالقلم ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله الذي أوتي جوامع الكلم وكرائم الحكم أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلغ عني ولو آية وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له طريقا إلى الجنة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أمن هو قانت آناء الليل ساجدا وقائما يحذر الآخرة ويرجو رحمة ربه قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وقلبا خاشعا ولسانا ذاكرا شاكرا وعملا صالحا متقبلا ويقينا صادقا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون أقيموا الصلاة